The readings are overstated. Something is going on inside of it. Alert! Containment conditions of one of the objects were violated in the SCP secret laboratory. The cube's steel walls did not withstand the monster's onslaught. The armored barrier, designed specifically for emergencies, could not stop the creature either. It was a new discovery in the SCP-096 behavior. The laboratory personnel didn't have any chances to learn that beforehand. Security was shooting back with both live ammunition and tranquilizer darts, but it didn't seem to be quite effective. Shy Guy successfully managed to break out of the SCP zone and escaped from the chase with a very high speed. All the Fun's employees saw the SCP-096 object's face point blank. Code L was declared. I'm telling you, they should be somewhere around here. I hope their mommy didn't break out. Yeah, would be in big trouble. Rudy found the information somewhere on the internet that Foxy Cobra skulls inhabit this approximate area. Together with his friend, they went to search for them to collect their reward from the SCP fund. They'd set the traps in an abandoned bomb shelter, hoping to catch at least one of these little monsters. Their stakeout place was a good observing point. Several hours have passed. The guys got quite bored and really wanted to eat. Hugh made a bonfire and they took some bread for just such an occasion, while Rudy took out the phone and started playing some exciting game. Some strange noises came from the side. Could it be that they caught one of the Foxy Cobras? But unfortunately it was just a fat rat. It's getting dark. We have to get going. The guys heard someone crying from behind and just froze in one place. Rudy whispered that it was the SCP-096. He told Hugh that they would survive if they just went forward without turning around. But his friend felt too curious. He wanted to at least get a glimpse of that creature, as it was the Shy Guy himself. Rudy was screaming and kicking the monster, but it was too late for his friend already. What did you do? Shy Guy brought the boy to the shelter. He couldn't understand why this creature didn't scream or didn't try to run away from him. Unexpectedly for himself, Rudy realized what the monster was mooing about. He took a sandwich out of his backpack and gave it to the creature. That was how they became friends. Shy Guy hardly ever felt safe whenever people were around. They were screaming all the time and trying to hurt. Therefore, he just wanted to eat them all. He couldn't understand why he was doing that, and he was eager to learn who he was. We need some good disguise. Rudy decided not to leave the monster alone and came up with some plan. The boy just couldn't abandon him, as this creature really needed someone's help. Besides, they could comfortably walk around the city in the camouflage. They were having a good time together, and no one even realized that it was the SCP monster. But the good mood vanished instantly as soon as they turned to the alley. These two guys bullied him all the time. Well, isn't it our loser Rudy? Look, he befriended a bum. Shy Guy got angry. He couldn't stand someone insulting his friend. He threw a ball with all his might and hit right on the target. They had to escape the place quickly. Rudy's house was just nearby. They both felt safe in there. Shy Guy looked around with great interest. This environment was absolutely unusual to him. A lot of photographs were hanging on the wall, but one particular picture drew his attention. He felt something strange in his chest. It was very hard for Rudy to talk about that. There was the day when his family was the happiest on earth. His mom was beautiful and always smiled, and his father always returned home with gifts. They truly loved each other, but everything was ruined by that one telephone call. I'm sorry to say, but your husband died on the job. A catastrophic incident happened at the mine where the man was mining mercury. The tunnel collapsed, and for several days rescue workers were digging out the ones who died. They found everyone except for Rudy's father. It was a tragic story. Shy Guy sighed heavily. They shuddered when someone knocked on the door. Honey, Are you home? Yes, Mom. Why are you so early today? Oh, Rudy, what do we do now? She worked at the market with no breaks for 7 days a week, but she was tricked again and was paid twice as little as they had to. Rudy felt sorry for his mom, but what he could do? Shy Guy climbed out of the wardrobe, annoyed. Rudy realized everything without saying a word. They both went to the market and found his mother's offender. You will pay my mom whatever she earned. Don't stick your nose, puppy, or I will fire her for good. Shy Guy was enraged. He was ready to tear the guy into pieces, but Rudy asked him not to interfere, as this dishonest man got enough already. I'm sorry I delayed your wage. Here's your money. You can take a vacation. Just rest as long as you need. I will take over your shifts. Meanwhile, Rudy decided to walk Shy Guy to the park. He was simply delighted. But he was shocked even more from the taste of the ice cream. Rudy was really having fun. Several girls, Rudy's classmates, approached them. They were offering invitations to the school festival. This festival is not for you. Hehehehe. Shy Guy didn't leave his friend alone in that and proposed a cool idea. Rudy realized that he actually had someone to go with and hugged the monster. You are my very best friend. There, he's hanging up there. Through tears, the hooligan was indistinctly trying to tell them about the huge terrible creature which attacked them out of nowhere when they were peacefully playing basketball. Rudy camouflaged himself as a killer clown, while Shy Guy just removed his clothing. They were quite excited to take part in all the competitions of that festival. He had no equals in eating hot dogs because of his gluttonous appetite. When he hit the attraction with a hammer, the scale jammed, but the crowd was most astonished when the creature lifted all the heaviest weights at once. He was given the main prize, the coolest dad in the world. After that, they went to the funhouse mirrors. It was the very best day in their lives. When the festival was over, they both went to the street. Rudy looked around. They were surrounded by the military personnel from all sides. After the SCP-096 had escaped, the scientists created a new preparation which paralyzed the vital functions of the humanoid's organism when ingested in the body. The group was given an order to eliminate the monster. Please don't do that. He is a good creature. Shy Guy died in his arms, but Rudy didn't want to believe that. The doctors found a small cut on Rudy's arm. The monster must have scratched him accidentally. The boy was hospitalized to the SCP base. The DNA lab results were ready. It was simply impossible. Shy Guy turned out to be Rudy's father. The SCP's colonel himself immediately ran to the laboratory. A medical nurse ran out of the cabinet and reported that the boy began to mutate. Rudy knew what was going on. Thus, he was entirely calm. We're sorry for the unexpectedness, ma'am, but we had to tell you that by no circumstances, your son has become the SCP object, and from now on he has to be held in special conditions. Probably, you won't see him again. Help! Landslide! The wreck was fixed badly and couldn't withstand the weight of the stone slab. The mine wall collapsed right on the poor workers. A huge nugget of mercury hit Alfred on the head. Poisonous substances penetrated into his body, and the poor fella mutated. Nothing human remained in him when he woke up, and without paying any attention to his dead comrades, the monster disappeared in the darkness of the mine. Good morning. It's time to take your medicine. Scientists of the SCP lab managed to stop Rudy's mutation, but the blocker didn't restore the mutated tissues of the arm, so the boy was placed in a department for the semi-mutants like him. It was a boarding house with a school curriculum and a deep study of molecular physics. They were allowed to move around the territory in certain, not strictly secret areas of the Foundation. Every day, they were stuffed with some kind of drugs. Rudy, Can you hear me? Who is it? Rudy complained to the doctor about someone's voice that intrusively resounding inside of his head lately. The doc explained that these were the consequences of the mutation and gave him a bunch of sedative pills. There wasn't much to the entertainment, the same computer games, the gym where they usually fooled around, and the rare but incredibly interesting excursions to the SCP laboratories. They were led by the orderly Ashley, a semi-mutant SCP-309. A long time ago, when he was a toddler, some deviations appeared in his body. His parents brought him to the SCP Fund themselves, and the Fund scientists still couldn't figure out the reasons for Ashley's mutation. Ultrasonic Youth, SCP-1231. This substance is not material and can easily enter your brain. Ashley said that previously, Ultrasonic Youth inhabited an apartment and was driving the owners crazy. The voice resounded in Rudy's head again. Greetings to you from Shy Guy. Ultrasonic reported that Shy Guy hadn't died. He was in coma. The bullets with the poisonous drug were not able to kill him. Tell that I miss him. Everyone looked at Rudy in surprise. The tour continued. And here we have Foxy Cobra. These mutations between two animals occurred due to a laboratory incident at the military base. He cheerfully told how the Foxy Cobra swallowed the inhabitants of Roblox, and the whole city formed inside of it. They were sacrificing each other to the giant helmet worm. But after the SCP agent's special operation, the Foxy Cobra was put to sleep, and everyone was rescued. After that excursion, the guys went to classes. Rudy didn't pay any attention to the teacher. His mind was preoccupied with the thoughts about Shy Guy, that he was still alive. It would be great to see him. And after school, when everyone went to play the computers, he escaped the room in search of his friend. Ultrasonic Youth kept silent, so he had no idea in which direction to move, and accidentally turned to the Foxy Cobra's cell. Rudy, you're not allowed to walk here alone. Why did you leave without asking for permission? He told Ashley that he really liked this affectionate monster and that it had a chance to become a cool pet. Then Rudy asked for permission to secretly feed it. Foxy Cobra became very attached to the boy and always wagged its snake tail when he was coming. It liked sugar, and Rudy tried to bring it more of his treat. A cough? At first, Rudy thought that Foxy Cobra was coughing, but then he realized that the sound was coming from its stomach. The guy climbed inside, carefully went down on the rope, and walked through the abandoned city in the direction of that cough. There was a small house on the lake shore. Rudy saw a professor sitting just near that house. What are you doing here? The professor told a story of how the former director of the SCP Speed forced him to pump the black pixels from the dangerous objects into his body. And as a result, the director turned into a monster himself. So he had to be isolated in a special cell, and the poor professor, who only carried out the orders, was sentenced to death for violating the rules of the fund. Though he managed to hide inside the Foxy Cobra, at night he sneaked into the laboratory and carried everything necessary for the living. How did you get here, boy? Rudy told everything from the beginning. How he met Shy Guy, and how it turned out that he had immunity to this monster. How they spent time together, helped each other, went to the masquerade, but SCP agents found Shy Guy and shot him with deadly poisonous cartridges. However, the Shy Guy contacted him recently through the SCP-1231. Yes, apparently he's in coma, so he can be saved. Professor Moran said that the black pixels, which Director Speak stole from Shy Guy, could possibly revive him. It was necessary to bring those monsters to the Foxy Cobra and palmed the pixels back to Shy Guy. "Take my key card." Rudy had hope of rescuing his friend now. He went back to the base, and the professor started assembling the device for pumping the pixels. "This is impossible. An order to dispose Shy Guy has already been signed. I found Professor Moron. He knows how to help Shy Guy." The guy was astonished. It was that same Professor Moron who once was Ashley's teacher. Back in those times, Ashley learned a lot from this talented guy. Claire was visiting Thiefcrawler as usual. Together, they discussed Roblox news, watched TV, played some Simple Dimple, and then Claire went home. In the corridor, she accidentally overheard Rudy and Ashley talking and decided that Professor Moron could heal Thiefcrawler too. "Hey guys, if you don't take me into this scheme, then I will tell the guards all about you." Ashley tried to dissuade them from that venture, but Rudy threatened him. "I know that you illegally watch anime at work, and if you don't help us, I will tell Director Rotten about it." "Okay, I will help you." He told about his blind granny who lived by the sea. If the monsters got well, it would be possible to hide them there. They arranged with Clava to meet in an hour at the same place. Rudy put on a robe and a medical mask to move around the base without having problems. With the help of the professor's keycard, they entered the secret documents department to find out where Speak was held. There were a lot of different folders in the office, neatly arranged in an alphabetical order. Rudy was searching for the right letter and suddenly came across a folder with his name. He was very curious. Based on the DNA samples, SCP-096 is Rudy's biological father? What? Rudy couldn't believe that. Shy Guy was his dad. So that was the reason why they got along together. "Hey, I found the right folder." The folder contained information that Speak was kept in a secret sector, X1337. The keycard was able to open that sector. They found Speak in one of the cells. He behaved quite aggressively. Ashley released the sleeping gas into the cell, and the monster quickly passed out. The guys loaded him into the laundry trolley. Such disguise helped them to move to Foxy Cobra's cell freely. Rudy gave it some sugar, and it obediently let everyone into its stomach. The guys lost a lot of time dragging the heavy monster to the professor's house. "We must hurry, he'll wake up soon." The professor almost finished assembling the apparatus. All that remained was to bring Shy Guy. They returned to the fund and entered the recycling bay. Shy Guy had already been prepared for disposal. The employee opened a giant furnace. Its flames burned even from distance, and the conveyor belt slowly moved Rudy's father into that hell. "Director Rotten summons you urgently." "Go! We will take care of everything." The worker left, and the guys dragged Shy Guy into the car. But he was too tall and didn't fit in anyhow. They threw more dirty laundry to cover him completely, but it looked quite weird, and it was the only way. Looking at the video surveillance cameras, the guards didn't pay any attention to the cart filled with dirty clothing. God knows what they transport through these corridors. The monsters were connected to the machine, and the professor started the process. "Let's get started. According to my calculations, the transfer should go smoothly." Rudy felt very nervous. His father started to move. When the pumping ended, Shy Guy woke up safely. "Father, you're alive!" Shy Guy didn't understand why he called him father. Rudy showed him supporting documents, and the Shy Guy burst into tears. Claire arrived at the appointed time, but the guys didn't appear at all. The alarm went off, and the guards started running along the corridors. "Girl, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I just got lost." Claire was ordered to leave the fund. 2 dangerous objects had disappeared, and the search started. They saw my face, so now I have to tear them to pieces. Dad, you shouldn't do this. They are helping us. Shy Guy calmed down, and they agreed that he wouldn't kill anyone anymore. Now they had to escape from the SCP fund unnoticed. When Ashley got out from the Foxy Cobra, he could hear the guards running through the corridors. He quietly made his way to the chief's office, but the duty officer was there. Ashley teased him for a little, and the officer reacted and fell right into the trap. Now Ashley was armed, so he ran into the chief's office, grabbed the man, took him out into the main corridor, and ordered everyone to comply with his demands. Otherwise, the chief would die. The first thing they did was releasing the Foxy Cobra. It obediently followed Ashley. They left the building and fell right into the sniper's gunpoint. The Sly Chief signaled to shoot. The sniper fired and hit his target. The Foxy Cobra started running, but a helicopter with a thermal imager pursued her. A wide river laid ahead. The Foxy Cobra jumped over it, but caught the missile in flight. Everything inside the Foxy Cobra began to flood. The guys realized that something terrible had happened, and the Foxy Cobra was under the water. They rushed to the exit. The river's flow carried the Foxy Cobra away from the place where it fell. The divers were not able to find it at all. The fugitives managed to get out from the Foxy Cobra. They ran along the river and stumbled upon some farm. A lot of clothes were dying there, so they managed to disguise the Shy Guy. Professor Moran suggested making a balloon out of the drying sheets. They found all the necessary equipment in the barn: a gas cylinder, an old truck cabin, pipes, ropes, and even a gasoline. When they were preparing the balloon, a little girl approached them and complained that her father was very angry and she was afraid of him. The guys were very unpleased. "Hey, who are you? Leave my child alone and put these things back." Moran tried to calm down the violent farmer, but was shot in the stomach. Shy Guy quickly immobilized the villain. Though it was too late, the professor was mortally wounded. "Farewell, my friends." The girl broke into tears. "Take me with you. I don't want to stay here no more." The guys didn't want to kill the farmer, so they simply tied him to his own gun and placed Bloxicola on the table. In case the farmer reached for it, the gun would fire. The balloon took off successfully. The SCP reconnaissance aircraft discovered an unknown flying object. It flew closer, and the chief recognized the fugitives. "Destroy them!" "But there are civilians in there. We've all seen Shy Guy's face. If you don't do that, he will kill us all." The pilot got scared, went to the foreshortening of the fire, and began to spray the balloon with the armor-piercing bullets. Shy Guy covered the children with his body and switched on the turbines. A powerful flame rose from the pipes. The balloon quickly accelerated, but because of the hole, they started losing height and eventually fell into the forest. Shy Guy was seriously injured, and they didn't know what to do. The girl said that she knew the forest quite well. There was a forester's house nearby, and when they reached it, the girl asked an old acquaintance for help. The forester was a kind man. He was well versed in bullet wounds. He put Shy Guy on his bed and wanted to make a surgery. But suddenly the radio interference resounded. The forester was surprised. He'd never heard such weird sounds from the radio. He brought it closer to the Shy Guy's wound, and the radio began to rustle even louder. "There is a bullet with a transmitter in his wound, so they know your location." The capture group had already surrounded the forester's house. They threw the gas grenades into the windows and began the assault, though there was no one inside. "The microwave is working! It's a bomb!" General Watson didn't understand anything. After the explosion, the signal still showed that they continued to move. An underground passage was found under the debris. 2 soldiers went inside the passage, but fell right into a trap right away. The tunnel was filled up with stones. Radar showed that the point began to move wildly through the forest. The search team went to chase them, but it was a decoy. The forester attached a bullet with a transmitter to a wild boar, who just ran and frolicked through the forest. In the end, the guys managed to escape. They reached the highway. The girl decided to stay with the kind bearded man, and Rudy, together with Shy Guy, caught a shuttle bus to the sea. They drove for quite a long time. Rudy was hungry, and Shy Guy was sick from a serious injury. Finally, the cries of the seagulls resounded, which meant that the sea was already close. They walked out near a cornfield and began to gorge themselves on fresh corn. They gained some strength and set off searching for the orderly Ashley's blind grandmother. The house located in a very cozy place. The guys were delighted. They thought that they would feel comfortable in that shelter. The granny met them in the house, but she turned out not to be blind. "Where is my Ashley? Unfortunately, he died." Granny started waving her arms and blaming them for everything. Disgruntled Claire appeared from the room and demanded to explain why they didn't help her to rescue Thief Crawler. Rudy told her about his failure, how they dragged the bodies for a long time, and ended up being late. Professor Moran died as well, and now no one could heal the Thief Crawler. But Claire didn't lose hope. She said that when she was kicked out of the SCP fund, she was walking in an upset mood and stumbled and broke her knee. At that moment, a helicopter delivering the Grave of Desires to the base was flying over her. A little bit of soil from the grave fell right on her broken knee, and the wound instantly healed. Claire collected the remnants of the soil and went to look for Ashley's blind granny. She smeared her blind eyes with soil, and Grandma immediately saw the light. "This soil can do a lot of things. Perhaps it will cure Thief Crawler and might even heal the Shy Guy." Claire took out the last bits of soil and started rubbing it into Rudy's mutated hand. His hand became normal. It was a real miracle. Granny said that on the radio they were talking about the Grave of Desires, which consisted of the soil from Mars. And recently, one other guy found a jar of that soil inside a sunken ship. That soil did real wonders. Claire offered to get into the SCP fund. It was decided that Rudy would go on this mission. He changed him into Claire's clothes, dyed his hair, and the guy went on a task. Everyone was occupied with their problems in the SCP fund, so no one even suspected that Rudy was there, disguised. With the help of the professor's key card, he made his way to the most secret place of the fund. The SCP Grave of Desires was located in the research compartment. Scientists studied the soil under the microscopes and conducted the experiments. Chief Rodson entered the room. "Hey Claire, what are you doing in here?" Rudy ran into some kind of elevator-like passage, locked the door, and began to randomly press the buttons.
The capsule activation went successful. I ask everyone to leave the takeoff site.
The capsule was transformed into a rocket waiting at the takeoff site. The silo opened. Chief Rodson didn't have time to cancel the flight. The rocket flew into the space.
Congratulations, we have successfully left the planet Roblox.
Where are we going now?
Our target is the planet Mars.
The SCP Fund's director was enraged. He called the main engineer into the office and ordered him to build a new spacecraft to fly to Mars. After that, he instructed General Folder to prepare a brigade of scientists and killers. They now had some additional work to do on Mars. Clava was declared persona non grata in Roblox. Posters with her face hung at every wall. They went to the grocery store. Clava was confused. She couldn't understand why the passers-by were looking at her so suspiciously. Shy Guy saw her face on one of the posters and immediately realized what they needed to do. Rudy woke up in the laboratory. "Confess, for what purpose did you arrive on our planet?" "It was just an accident." But Shy Guys didn't believe the boy. He was taken to some kind of room that resembled a court. Another Shy Guy was sitting there, all dressed in black. Apparently he was the judge. Rudy told him how he accidentally found himself in a spaceship that was flying to Mars. He was then detected by the air defense of the planet and the spaceship got hit. Rudy managed to eject. The landing was tough and he passed out. Mars police transported him to the laboratory for further examination. It has been determined that Rudy came from the planet Roblox. He was in disguise, which confirmed the fact that he was a spatial agent. The judge sentenced the boy to survival. They took him to his cell and advised to prepare, as tomorrow at dawn, the survival would begin. Rudy had no slightest idea what kind of survival it was. He felt very uncomfortable. He looked out the window and noticed a rope with a bundle attached to it. Rudy reached out and took it. It was a note from the prisoner from the cell above. "Greetings, my friend. I am too sentenced for survival. Tomorrow me and you are destined to fight to death. About a year ago, I landed on Mars with a group of scientists. As soon as we arrived, Mercury rain began, and the whole team turned into Shy Guys. Someone suggested that we hide in a cave. But when we came inside and touched the ground, our legs became normal again. We then covered ourselves with the soil from the head to foot and got back to normal. Obviously, we had a certain interest in this cave. We decided to go a little deeper and found a crystal that emitted some kind of energy. Apparently, this crystal irradiated the soil inside the cave, and it became, in some sense, special. We were about to examine the object, but some Shy Guy in a protective suit appeared and accused us of desecrating the holy place. Our attempts to explain that this earth allowed us to become normal were unsuccessful. The Shy Guy detonated a sound grenade, and we all passed out. We were all taken to the Mars police. Then there was a trial. Survival was chosen as the measure of restraint. We had to fight for our lives. I defeated all my comrades except for Professor Gorby. The day before our fight, Gorby used his glasses as magnifying lenses to start a fire. And as the chaos set in, the guy used the cloud of smoke to escape. He returned to the cave. The work there was underway on sealing the holy place. It was late at night then, and the workers were deeply asleep, so Gorby got inside easily. He stole enough of that soil for examination, loaded it all into a construction spaceship, and flew off Mars. During the flight, he collided with a small meteorite, but still managed to get to Roblox. The cargo compartment was pierced, so almost all of the soil spilled out onto the site where the SCP Grave of Desires appeared later. Professor rented a yacht and started to examine the soil from Mars. Creepus dispatched 2 cleaners to the planet Roblox. The hijacked ship had a sensor, so the cleaners found an abandoned spacecraft near the pond, following its signals. They searched the area, found the professor's yacht, swam underwater to set a bomb, got inside, and attacked the professor. He managed to throw a handful of soil at one cleaner. The man instantly turned into a normal Robloxer. His partner, Francis, couldn't believe his eyes. Could it be that Creepus was really hiding the truth from all Shy Guys? They completely forgot about the bomb's timer. The partner was killed in the explosion. The ship sank. Francis returned to Mars, but didn't report what he saw to the Commander-in-Chief, Creepus. It was clear that Creepus would eliminate him as a witness. The entrance to the cave was walled up entirely. They set up pillboxes with submachine gunners nearby and informed Mars inhabitants that those gods who lived in the crystal demanded peace. Francis told about the Holy Land to his friend, a prison food delivery man with whom he later created a secret rebel community. They were devising a plan to overthrow Creepus. Rudy wrote a letter back, hooked it to a rope, and Ticey pulled the note up. "Do we have any plan for tomorrow's survival? We will have to fight to death." Taisi wrote on paper that Borsch would bring him everything he needed. An instruction would be written with milk on the paper. He just needed to bring the paper closer to a candle. Rudy waited for dinner. Finally, the food was brought to his cell. A raw meat covered in blood laid on a tray, together with the napkin. He did as Taisi told him. The milk on the napkin darkened. The note said that Rudy should put the raw meat under his clothes tomorrow and go to the battle. Rudy realized everything. That was an imitation of death. He calmed down and fell asleep. At night, he dreamed about Ashley's granny house. Shy Guy was frying meat, and Clava and Vera were playing badminton. Ashley approached the shore on a yacht. Rudy was so delighted.
Hey!
"Buddy, you're still alive. But how?" "Yes, it turns out that there is no brain in my head. It's completely empty." "Where is your brain then?" "In my legs." Rudy woke up from the noise in the hallway. The guards entered his cell. He was ordered to put on a special survival suit. Rudy asked them to turn away, as if he was feeling embarrassed, put on a suit, and stuffed a piece of meat under his clothes. He was taken to the Coliseum, where the spectators, the Mars elite, already awaited the show. That Creepus was among them. The second gate opened, and Taisi appeared. He was a really tough guy. Now it became clear why he always managed to win. They took their weapons, and the signal for survival rang. Rudy showed where the meat was hidden, and Taisi winked. The fight began, though the battle didn't last long. Taisi stuck his sword right into his target. Rudy pretended to be dead. He was taken to the recycling bay, while Taisi received the Victory Award, 1 day of watching TV. The happy prisoner really missed these new YouTube videos. He chose a new episode of Roblox Bully Story about the SCP camp and started watching it eagerly. The bodies of the criminals from various ranks laid in the disposal compartment. The worker threw them into the oven and put a checkmark in his notebook. "Hey man, get up." They put a mannequin instead of Rudy, covered it with blanket, and left quietly. Borsch brought Rudy to his closet, which looked more like the scouts' headquarters. Francis got out from somewhere under the boxes and said that they wanted to steal the soil from the cave and spray it over the city, so that all Shy Guys became normal. But he didn't have time to finish. "Open up! It's the Mars police!" Old Granny was making a strawberry pie, while Daddy Shy Guy was developing Rudy's saving plan, together with Clava in the next room. Not a single good idea came to their minds, for it was obviously impossible to reach Mars without a spaceship. Granny wanted to get the pie out and got burned, but the pie didn't fall on the floor, it just hung in the air. Vera realized that it was her who kept the pie levitating by just gazing at it. The guys were simply shocked when she brought it into the room. It was clear to them that this was a consequence of using that soil from Mars. Shy Guy suggested stealing a rocket ship from Roblox RSS station. They all went outside. Vera tried to levitate a tractor, but it didn't quite work. She could only do it with smaller objects. "You need to strengthen your ability." Daddy Shy Guy decided to train Granny, so they started going for a run every morning, did push-ups and crunches. Vera could move pitchforks with her mind and throw them right where she aimed to. She could throw a ball right onto the basket and even managed to take a frightened cat from the tree. But she was not capable of lifting larger things, and Shy Guy felt desperate. He was upset about this and often complained to Clava. Once, when they were working on their plan of saving Rudy, Vera decided to go to a supermarket. It was already dark outside, Some hooligan saw a defenseless old woman and attacked her in an alley, but she didn't want to give him her purse. And despite the old woman being in great pain, she boxed the man between the two trash cans. The granny was so happy. She went to inform Clava and Shy Guy about everything that just happened. They went to the shore. Vera began to slap her face, and she could easily leave a passing sailboat right after that. This all made their plan perfectly executable. They learned the exact date and time when the astronauts planned their flight to the moon. At the appointed time, they parked not too far away from the RSS. The spacecraft was just about to take off when Shy Guy activated the old lady's superpower. She managed to stop the rocket and even pulled it closer. The astronauts couldn't really understand anything. They engaged the turbines and tried to get off the ground, but Vera was stronger. "I suggest you give up. Open the airlock and come out with your hands up." But the crew refused to leave. They decided to inform the base about that incident. The police went to the scene immediately. Though the guys were ready for this, they sealed the rocket, took a haystack, and set it on fire. The smoke got inside, and the astronauts began to choke, so they had to leave the spaceship. By the time the police arrived, the hijackers had already taken off. "Rudy, sit in this hiding place. There is only room for one. Oh, and use this in case of danger." The rebels began to destroy the evidence, and the cops told Kripus that their suspect, Borsch, was not opening. Kripus ordered them to destroy Borsch without any interrogation. A robot stormtrooper arrived at the scene. He cut a hole with his laser and tossed in a bomb. The rebel forces were destroyed. Rudy was dazed, but he didn't get hurt. He saw perfectly how the field agents were searching the premises. They scanned rebels' bodies and informed Kripus that one of the cleaners, Francis, was in that room too. The guy smelled a conspiracy. He ordered the security of the cave to be tightened and declared martial law on Mars. Police posts were set up everywhere in the city in order to check documents. "Director Watson, the spacecraft is ready. Assemble the crew. I will fly to Mars personally." A unit of SCP workers was transported to a rocket by an elevator. Watson commanded to take off, and the rocket flew into open space. The pilot reported that there was a ship which also headed towards Mars. Moreover, the radar showed that there were SCP objects in this rocket. Watson ordered his crew to overtake that suspicious ship, and they tried to lock on. "I am highly confused. This is Clava, Shy Guy, and some random grandmother." Vera banged herself hard and pulled the SCP-Fun spaceship away. In response, the fun staff prepared an ultrasonic gun and turned all the electrical devices on the criminal ship off with one shot. They were immobilized, and their ship could not fly any further, so they just hovered in space. Watson was satisfied and ordered to fly on. The alarm went off. Rudy waited for everyone to leave, quietly got out of hiding and opened the box. A bottle of mercury, holy soil, and a military uniform rested inside. He doused himself with mercury, turned into a Shy Guy, changed his clothes, and calmly went out into the corridor. Some soldier was running by. "Come quick! We're under alien attack!" He followed the colonel, was seated together with other soldiers, and they flew in an unknown direction. As it turned out, their mission was to guard the sacred cave. Rudy was astonished with his good fortune. He walked around the place, examined the area, counted how many soldiers were guarding the object. The pilot informed Watson that life had been discovered on Mars. "Thank you, I can see that myself. Tyrell opened fire on the alien ship, being hit by a blast. The ship was completely out of control, and it crashed right into the lake with lava. The police drove up to the lake. They decided that the alien ship had burned up in the lava and transmitted it to all posts by radio. Rudy decided that it was the time to act. He chose the stupidest shy guy and invited him to play rock, paper, scissors for a wish. White didn't know this game, so Rudy had to explain the rules. The stronger object beats the one weaker. So they started playing. Rudy threw paper against the scissors and lost. White told him to climb the nearest hillock and crawl. Rudy didn't have other choice but to fulfill the wish. All the soldiers began to laugh at him. They played once more, and Rudy lost again. His scissors were weaker than a stone. White told Rudy to delete his Brawl Stars account. Rudy was about to burst into tears as he had 50,000 trophies. They started playing yet again, and finally, Rudy won. He told White to cover himself with soil. And when his wish was fulfilled, the guy turned into a normal person immediately. The soldiers were shocked. They didn't understand what happened to him. Rudy took advantage of the commotion and began to cover himself with the soil too, and simultaneously tried to explain to the soldiers that Kripus was deceiving everyone. They had the opportunity to become normal again just like him. Kripus' right hand, Verdepool, tried to contact the post near the sacred cave, but the soldiers didn't get in touch. Kripus ordered him to check what was happening there, but when Verdepool flew to the side, there were no soldiers, and the entrance to the cave was open. He went inside and saw a large pit. Apparently, someone stole the Holy Land. He wanted to report on the radio, but accidentally jarred the tripwire. Rudy sprayed the magic soil all over the city. Both policemen and regular citizens were becoming normal again, but no one could really understand why this was happening. White and his squad of rebels took control over the television center and reported on the air that the government of Mars was hiding the truth about their past and the sacred crystal cave. Strikes broke out near Kripus' palace. People demanded the truth. Kripus ordered his personal guards to shoot the strikers to kill, but his guards refused to carry out this vile, spineless order. They wanted to become normal, just like everyone else. Meanwhile, the SCP Fun team managed to catch a local TV channel at the very bottom of the lava lake. Chief Rodson learned what was happening on Mars from the news. "We must get into this cave!" The spaceship's lava-resistant hull opened. They rode out on a digger crane, drilled a tunnel to the cave, and the sacred crystal appeared in front of them. Chief Rodson recognized that object. It was the SCP Crystal of Persuasion. Rodson was young back then and had just enlisted in the SCP Fund. He was an ordinary soldier. One day, he was sent into the desert in search of the SCP camp, together with his partner. But a sandstorm hit, during which they got into an accident. The car caught fire, and all their supplies, water, were destroyed, as well as coordination with the base. They had to survive. They walked straight west according to the compass for several days. On the way, Kripus passed out, and Rodson dragged his partner for several miles. He was exhausted and hopeless when suddenly an oasis emerged in the distance. "Creep, we are saved!" Kripus grabbed the fence, but the poor guy got hit by electricity. They were lucky to have grenades. After blowing up the fence, they jumped into the cool waters of the lake and splashed in it, just like children, until they quenched their thirst. They ate bananas and big juicy apples, these generous gifts of the trees. There was an entrance to some cave not too far away from the lake, and the soil under their feet was somehow strange. They decided to go deeper into the cave, and the bright glow of the crystal illuminated everything, but the two of them felt too tired to celebrate their finding, and they both laid down to take a nap. Rodson tossed and turned, but couldn't fall asleep because of the crystal's bright glow. "Oh, how I wish to become the SCP Fund's director." Creep began to act weirdly when he woke up. "Good afternoon, General Rodson." Rodson was astonished. Could it be that this crystal fulfilled his desire? He quietly told the crystal that he didn't want anyone to consider him as the director anymore, and Kripos recovered from that hypnosis. "Hey bro, aren't you sleeping?" Early in the morning, a surveillance aircraft of the SCP Fund appeared in the sky. The guys were rescued. They were both brought to the base together with the crystal. Rodson told them about his discovery, and the crystal was transferred to the scientists for further examination. Upon finishing the experiments, the object was found to be particularly dangerous. It was poured with heated iron and placed in a freezer compartment where the temperature was set on -100,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Kripos simply couldn't forget how easily Rodson became the Fund's director. He didn't want to be an ordinary soldier anymore, so he found a similar iron box in the trash heap, got into the vault, and replaced the secret object. He then hid the object in a trash can and took the container outside the Fund under the guise of getting rid of garbage. Kripos took the frozen iron block out in the nearest grove and started sewing it with a thermal lens. Finally, the crystal was released. "I want to be the president of Roblox." Kripos was quite cautious about going back to the city. He was worried that the SCP Fund would be looking for him. "Good day, Mr. President." Ordinary pedestrians were acknowledging him as the president, and the man felt better. An armored jeep drove up. Bodyguards covered him from the crowd of curious bystanders. Creep helped the former president to leave the office. The poor guy couldn't understand who that man was. Kripos gave him a broom. "Don't you remember? You are an ordinary cleaner." Those scientists who conducted the experiments on the crystal were vaccinated against its effects, so they watched with curiosity and utter confusion how all the Roblox residents and the SCP Fund's employees saw Kripos as their president. They decided to check on the crystal and discover the substitution. An emergency state was proclaimed in Roblox immediately, and a massive vaccination campaign against the crystal's effects started. The residents were slowly coming to their senses, realizing that they had been shamelessly deceived. It was clear as the day for Kripos. He had to flee. So he gave an urgent order to assemble an interplanetary rocket and recruit the volunteers who had not been vaccinated yet and were still under the influence of the crystal. They would all fly to Mars too. Nobody knew exactly where they were headed to, so it was pointless to search for them in space. After landing, the new inhabitants of Mars set up a campground, rejoicing about the exploration of the new lands. Suddenly, a mercury rain started. People tried to escape, but the liquid flooded all of their tents, and they all turned into shy guys. Kripos was satisfied with his new body, as it was an excellent disguise, and no one would ever recognize him in this form. He persuaded everyone that they were real inhabitants of Mars, and that they've always had such bodies. The Martians were satisfied too, and the construction of a new city began. They lived and reproduced, and soon enough they built a whole state on Mars, which was of course led by Kripos. Rodson was happy about the find. Finally, he'd be able to catch Roblox traitor. He wished that all the Mars inhabitants would remember who they truly were and understand that Kripos had deceived all of them. Rudy and White broke into Creepo's apartment, but he had already activated the missiles to destroy the most important strategic object of Mars. The first missile hit the satellite link. The second hit the station with spaceships. The third one blew up the warehouses with weapons and food. And the fourth destroyed the cave with the crystal. No one will leave this planet for good, and you all will starve to death. Suddenly, the planet Roblox appeared in the sky. No one could really understand how exactly this could happen. But as it turned out, it was the SCP grandmother who pulled both planets to each other. They gravitated so close that the inhabitants were able to evacuate, and then the old woman pushed Mars back to its orbit. Creepus cried and tearfully asked for forgiveness, but no one could hear it. When all this was over, Vera collapsed to the floor. The doctors did everything that was in their power, but unfortunately, she met a heroic death. In gratitude, the residents of Roblox set up her monument. Daddy Shy Guy seemed very sad. He didn't get that healing earth. Rudy checked his pockets and found a small pinch inside. Hey, but what about the thief crawler? I'm sorry, Clava, this is for my father. His father was finally able to turn into a normal resident of Roblox. They hurried home to his mom with this good news.